morning, my friends. We are back. We are back. We are back. It's 2024. Now we've got some wonderful guests for you coming up today, and it's a pretty packed show. So without further ado, shall we bring in the guests today? We have Sarah. What we have now is this is just a little bit where we're going to go through. It's the favourite section that a lot of the children have sort of said that they love, and it's where all the authors get 1 minute on a timer to describe their entire story in a minute, and it's quite strict. So there's no repeating. Obviously you can repeat like words like and things like that. That's a bit tricky, but no repeating parts of the plot. Now that may fill you with terror, each of you, or it may fill you with joy, or terrible joy. I'm not quite sure if that's the thing. And this will be the same for all of you, and you'll have 1 minute to give us your best shot for all those hours and months you spent pondering over your novels, distilled down to one paltry minute. We get to talk more about it later on. So say goodbye to now for Pari. So thanks, Pari. So say goodbye now, Sarah and Ben. And here we are, Anna. Just me and you. So how are you feeling? Pretty good?
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Really ready to go?
Yeah, guns blazing.
Okay, now I have this very high quality timer here. It's very
okay.
Oh yeah, gold embossed, obviously. I'm gonna do. I'll give you a 1, 2, 3. And then as soon as you go full screen, you got a minute, and then I will stop you dead on a minute. So if you're in mid-sentence, it's one of those things. So, okay, bit of stretching. Come on, you can do it. I believe in you. Okay, over to Anna Rainbow to give us a 1 minute kind of synopsis of her brilliant book, Diamond Jack, Your Magic or Your Life. Okay, Anna, you ready for this? Okay, full screen coming to you, and the minute start.
Diamond Jack, Your Magic or Your Life is a story about a 12-year-old girl called Bramble Browning who works in her grandpa's emporium for strange and magical things. And one day, her and her best friend Ernest decide that they're going to go down to the bottom of the garden into the forbidden shed, and they find a highwayman's mask. So when Bramble picks it up, she gets this kind of tingling in her fingers, and she realizes that she has to put it on. And when she puts the mask on, she transforms into the notorious highwayman, Diamond Jack. And then things start getting really bad because her poor grandpa gets stolen by a group of villainous highwaymen called the Rippers, and only Diamond Jack can save him. So Ernest and Bramble team up with two fantastic highwaymen called Charlie One Shot and Agnes the Blade. And they have to go on an epic adventure to bring Grandpa home.
That's it. Look at that. Was very professional. That
was
literally that was to the second. That was to the second. I think you should be for the rest of the day. Just take it easy. Put your feet up. You've accomplished what you need to today. I think that let's give Anna a big round of applause there. All across the country, they can't see you, but we can see it. So well done, Anna. That's very, very good. But I must say, I can see the rest of the authors slightly quaking in their boots now, because obviously you set that pretty high there. But we're going to say, so obviously, what do you think of Anna there? Pretty good?
Well, I was kind of hoping I wouldn't have to go after Anna because Anna did such a great job. So I'm worried now. I think I might go a little bit over. So I'm going to try and shorten it down.
You're going to be great. I have faith in you. Okay. I have faith in you. So that's good.
Okay,
so Ben, we're going to go. Sorry, that Ben. Sorry.
If you've got faith in me, that's all I need.
That's all you need. That's all you need. So Ben, we're going to go full screen, and then you start your minute. So good luck. Here we go.
So, The Boy Who Fell from the Sky is a sci-fi fantasy book set in the real world, but where shooting stars are a sign of danger, because when a shooting star screams across the sky, a demon falls through it and down to Earth. Now, demons are like monsters, and down on Earth we have warriors called hunters whose job it is to find them and eliminate them. Our main character is 12-year-old Zed, who you can see on the front right here, and he wants to be a hunter just like his dad, who's the best hunter there's ever been, but Zed's kind of doing a pretty poor job of it. Then one night he stumbles across a demon who has fallen from the sky, whose name is Spark, and he realizes that the demon is not a monster at all, but is simply a lost boy who just wants to get back home. And so Zed has to make a very important choice. Will he make friends with the demon and help him, or will he follow in his dad's footsteps? Done. Finished.
That's incredible. That was under time. But also it had it. I can't fault it, because it had a beauty. It had it like all good books had a great beginning, middle, and end. So I can't say that there was more to be said. I think you did a great job. So congratulate yourself there. And just like Anna, put your feet out the rest of the day, nice cup of tea, packet of rich tea, whatever you want. So that's good. So that's fantastic. So we're going to go straight to you, Pari. So listen, we're straight to you. How are you? How's it going? Okay.
Yep, all good.
How you feeling? Feeling nervous? You feeling okay?
Yeah, I think those were two very hard acts to follow. So I'm going to do my best.
I think you're right. Anna was right on it. Well, literally a second before. Benjamin was less than that, but obviously, you couldn't fault it really. But I think you're going to do a great job. So here we go. Over to you. Your minute starts on full screen now.
All right. So Greenwild is the first in a series of 3 magical fantasy adventures. And Greenwild, the first book, is the story of 11-year-old Daisy Thistledown. And she is the daughter of a glamorous journalist who travels all around the world researching stories. Then one day, Daisy's mother has to go and research a story in the Amazon rainforest, and Daisy is left behind at a horrible boarding school. Then Daisy hears that her mother has disappeared in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, and Daisy decides that it's up to her to escape from boarding school and find out what has happened to her missing mother. In the process, she steps through a magical, hidden, secret door in Kew Gardens into a hidden world called the Greenwild, a place where plant magic is real, where botanists are fighting to protect endangered plants, and where Daisy will find out the answer to what has happened to her missing mother.
That's good. Well done. That was very, very good. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go to each of our authors. We're going to ask some of your questions, some of my questions. We're going to get a reading from them. And at the end, they're all going to be back together again for a few more questions and a bit of fun at the end. So the first person we're going to find out a bit more about today, back with Diamond Jack has said, your magic or your life. Please welcome back to Mr Dilly Meets Anna Rainbow. Hello, Anna, again. How are you? Fantastic. How did you think all the others did after you sort of?
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
So Anna, so your fabulous book, which I absolutely love. It's a beautiful, and I love the cover as well. It's really
it's gorgeous,
good.
Isn't it? Isabel Pollath. She's the one who.
Tell us a bit more about it. So the main character is Bramble, and the other main characters in the story. Tell us a little about her and her sort of friends, and how the sort of where we find her and her friends at the beginning of this story. So we go to full screen, and I'll hand over to you to sort of tell us a bit more about the story and about.
Well, Bramble's best friend is called Ernest, and he's my favourite character. I just loved him so much. So a lot of care went into Ernest, and he is the son of a dressmaker, so he lives next door to Ernest. And he's just he's so enthusiastic, and he's just full of life, and he's so positive about everything. And he doesn't follow, he goes side by side with Bramble through her big adventure. And bless him, he's absolutely obsessed with highwaymen, but the mask won't work for him. It'll only work for Bramble. So this is a huge source of sadness for Ernest. And then he's never allowed to be a highwayman, because all the other highwaymen are like, oh, you're too young, you can't possibly be a highwayman. So, but he does have a really important role. And he also rescues a little dog called a turnspit dog, which is a little dog who runs around a giant hamster wheel and turns a massive spit, so it kind of roasts your dinner better. So Ernest and this little dog friend really help Bramble out.
And we all need a dog like that, especially on Sundays. The roasted is a good thing. It's wonderful. But were you interested in highwaymen as a sort of a subject matter? I mean, it may be. I don't know if all children will sort of know necessarily, what they are really or were, or when they were sort of around. I mean, did you have to do a lot of research in order to sort of have a look at what highwaymen were and were there actually highway women as well, or was it just mainly men? What did your research sort of tell you about when you were doing that?
Yeah, well, there were highway women, but they weren't as famous as highwaymen. It was actually my son who was absolutely obsessed with highwaymen when he was little, bless him. I've actually got his hat with me to show you. This is his little hat that he used to wear. You didn't
actually go out and rob coaches, so it's healthy to get out of the house, but I mean, maybe that's taking it a bit too far. So you had sort of books and stuff that he had read and sort of looked at when he was younger.
Yeah. So his favourite was The Highway Rat by Julia Donaldson, because this was when he was quite a bit younger, and he loved Robin Hood as well. So then I kind of wanted to write something for when he got a tiny bit older for him to enjoy and read.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you actually, because that's interesting you say that. Was because I don't know who described this, but it says that this book has been described as a wholly original mashup of classic tales, Shades of the Red Shoes, The Three Musketeers, and Robin Hood. What was it your intention? I know you speak about your son there, and the sort of, was it your intention to give the book the sort of feel of those classics, or sort of draw on them in a sense? Was it? What was your?
I think so. Yeah, I hadn't thought of the shoe one.
It said in the things. So I thought, that's an interesting one.
That's when she puts the shoes on and can't stop dancing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that one, but yeah, I think for me it was more Jim Carrey's The Mask, which is more kind of my age. It was out in the 90s, which is when I was a teenager. I think Robin Hood, definitely, because I didn't want Bramble to be someone who's running around stealing and robbing. I wanted Bramble to be someone who was doing good. So she steals from the poor to give. Sorry, doesn't steal from the poor. That would be awful. She steals from the rich to give to the poor.
That's a good one. That would be a twist.
Yeah.
We want. Good. So yeah, but it does have that sort of feel about, and that sort of kind of swashbuckling. I know they're sort of cliche terms, but rip-roaring kind of energy and feel as you sort of read the book, which kind of thrusts you through it. We're going to come to a reading in a minute, but I've just got a quick question for you. It's actually separate from the book. It's actually from your website. It's a very quick question, and I think either you wrote it or it was wrote about you. It says Anna was raised by a guitar-obsessed father and a mother with amazing cooking skills, and as such, still loves all things music and food related. So I'm going to concentrate on the food because I'm a big food fan. Out of the rest, what would be your favorite food? It's really hard, this one, to take with you on a desert island. I can give you a starter, a main, and a dessert if you like. And I know this may change hourly, probably. That would Yeah. Favorite food. What would be your favorite starter, do you think?
Oh, I love this question. I could talk for hours about food.
Oh, I know.
It would probably have to be something with king prawns for the starter, like garlic and king prawns. Maybe. I love seafood.
Fantastic.
The mains would just be steak. I absolutely love steak.
Yeah.
With chips.
And chips, bacon chips. Very good.
Oh, I love it. Tiramisu every time.
Tiramisu. Oh, well, things done well. All those three done well are incredible, aren't they? I mean, done well. They're just fantastic thing. Basically, all food done well is good. Let's face it. Okay, listen, we're going to hand over to you now. Have you got a little reading for us? Give us a little sort of taste, the feel of the book, and I think readers, you'll get and viewers, you'll get a real sort of feel for that sort of swashbuckling adventure feel that the book comes across. So I'll hand over to you, Anna, now. I'll give us a sort of taster of Diamond Jack. Here we
go. Okay, so she picked the mask up. Instantly, it made her fingers tingle, almost like the dull ache of a nettle sting. It had called to her. She was sure of it. But how had it called to her? It had to be magic. She swallowed. She desperately wanted to try it on, but it was too dangerous. Magic had been banned for a reason. Bram decided to put it back in the box, replace the bricks, and forget all about it. Maybe she'd pluck up the courage to ask Grandpa about it someday. Yet no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't put the mask down. It was as though it was stuck to her skin. She tried shaking her hands, tried pumping them open and closed, but nothing seemed to work. Then, without her permission, her arms began moving, lifting the material towards her face. The mask was somehow dragging her hands upwards. Panic exploded in her chest as she fought the urge, but it was as if the mask wanted to be worn. Before she knew it, she'd pulled the fabric over her eyes and tied the ends at the back of her head. An unfamiliar whooshing sensation travelled through her body. The fizzing was back. The skin around her eyes grew hot and itchy. Then, nothing. She started to laugh. What had she expected? It was just a mask. Of course it hadn't stuck to her fingers. Of course she hadn't felt a hook in her tummy. The dark, creepy shed was playing tricks on her. Magic was dead. Stand and deliver, your money or your life, she whispered. Then she chuckled as she untied the fabric. But the mask wasn't going anywhere. It was well and truly stuck.
I love that idea of as I said, it reminds me of that Jim Carrey film, The Mask. I don't know if any of the children watching have seen it, but that idea of mask and then putting on then that transformation bit of mask, which are always amazing. It really sums it up. I used to do lots of drama with children, and we'd use masks in the drama, and it was incredible. The performances you get out of them, because they've got their sort of face covered and the sort of characters they can become because of these masks, so kind of echoes your thing. Speaking of children, we have some questions for you, Anna, from some schools. I'll put them up on the screen here. So we have Greenbank Primary School in Rochdale. What was your biggest inspiration for writing your book? You sort of touched on it, but I'll hand over to answer.
Well, it was my son. My son was my biggest inspiration because, bless him, he just loved highwaymen so much. But then I also drew on things like Robin Hood, like we've talked about. There was a really cool film when I was younger called Plunkett and Maclean, which is too old for you guys yet, but hold it in mind for when you get a little bit older. And that's got two real kind of dandy highwaymen in it. And they're based on real highwaymen from history as well. So, yeah.
So there's a whole thing. Is your son sort of the right age now to read this book? Can he read this now?
He is. He's 9, but much to my dismay, my son doesn't like reading.
Doesn't like highwaymen anymore.
He likes playing rugby and football. Not that you could not do that and read, obviously, but he's busy running around, and he is not interested at all in my books.
Well, he might get that bit. I was talking to someone the other day about that. When you you go through your teenage years and then you get older again, and you remember the things from your childhood. And you sort of go back to it and you go, oh, my mum wrote that book about highwaymen, which I loved, and then you sort of read it again.
I now won't read.
Yeah. So here we go, another one. So Kelty Primary School in Fife. What do you do to make your characters relatable? Which is quite a good question. Yeah, it's good, that, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
I think probably I try and give them a few flaws. And what I mean by that is not trying to make them too perfect. So Bramble, for example, she can get a little bit anxious about stuff. She's not naturally brave. She has to practice being brave, and she has to become brave. And I think that's really relatable, that we don't just have these perfect people, because nobody's perfect, and we all have emotions, and we all struggle with certain things. So yeah.
And can I just ask you about that? How do you, just for children watching, if they're writing their own characters, how do you sort of, so say, well, this character's got those flaws. Do you make them all very, very different flaws each character has, or some of them just have, because there are sort of common ones, aren't there, that a lot of us sort of have in degrees. And then there's sort of specific ones you think, that are very strong in a person or in a character. How do you sort of divide those flaws up, if you like? How do you do that?
I don't know if I'm that methodical, to be honest. I think it just kind of, I don't know. I think I just get a really strong sense of the character, and the flaws just naturally come about. So like Ernest is very opposite to Bram. He's so kind of gung-ho, and his flaw might be that he's so impulsive. He doesn't always think before he rushes in. So they kind of balance each other out really well. But I don't know if I sit down and think about it that
just what comes in it. I
think it comes in the writing often,
Absolutely. Well, that kind of works with the next question. So we're just pop to that now. Lotsford School in Ilford. Just very quickly, how long did it take you to write your book?
Oh, not long actually. Diamond Chat was quite a quick write. I think I'd written the first draft within a month or so. I was actually on maternity leave, so I had a bit of time. I wasn't kind of doing my day job, so I could just focus on it. So yeah, I just enjoyed it so much. I just sat at my keyboard and was like this.
and then the order sort of came out at you, which is great. Yeah. And that's that be a lot of authors on the shows before. They just sort of say, don't overthink it, especially in that first draft. And I just watched this interview with, I don't know who it was the other day. He said, how does the first draft compare to the last draft? He said, it's exactly the same, apart from all the important bits. It was a great thing. So listen, Anna, we're going to thank you about this. So this is out now. Diamond Jack, Your Magic or Your Life is out now. Fantastic read. Anna, we're going to bring you on again later on with the other authors for a few more questions. But for now, thank you very much. Round of applause. Thank you. Anna Rainbow, thank you very much, Anna. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so I think we're going to go straight to, let's go to Benjamin Dean now. I know, Ben, you weren't expecting that, but we're going to go and bring in Benjamin Dean to speak about his wonderful new book, The Boy Who Fell from the Sky. What an amazing cover that is. So let's welcome Mr. Meets Benjamin Dean. Hello, Benjamin, again. How are you doing?
Hi, good, thank you. How are you?
Very, very good. Interesting to listen to other authors, I expect, sort of, and their sort of ideas and stories and stuff.
Yeah, always interesting to hear how other authors write their first drafts and where they get their inspirations from. Start taking things for myself.
Yeah. Well, no, we're all sort of sharing sort of stuff in that sort of way. So Ben, we're going to talk about your brilliant book. As I said, The Boy Who Fell from the Sky. Here we go. It goes slightly weird on my green screen. It's a bit more sort of space ragey. As I said, wonderful cover. Tell us a little bit about. I didn't actually ask Sarah this one, but you're kind of here to there. Or there to hear sort of author journeys, so when you sort of started out, and a lot of children are always interested in this. I'm sure you get this sort of question a lot, sort of, were you good at school at writing, or did you enjoy it, or did you like English, or whatever it was? Where were you then, and how did you sort of make that trans sort of question to where you are now? I'll hand over to you just to sort of give us a sort of a rough idea of that.
Yeah, I always loved stories when I was growing up, and yeah, I think I was quite good at English. I think it was maybe the only subject that I knew I was all right at. But my favorite part about an English lesson was when we started to create stories. It was something that I really kind of loved to try. And I always loved to read as well. So being able to do my own work was really exciting for me. And then when I when I graduated from uni, I became a journalist. So I was writing every day anyway. And then I just refound my love for writing creatively and fiction, and decided to give it another go. And now here I am.
Here you are, yeah. But it's amazing you said that with this when we sent to Anna about that sort of, refinding of things. You sort of, you are interested, you sort of lose it again, then kind of come back to it. It's sort of an interesting thing that happens to a lot of us, and all sorts of interests from especially early school. I found sort of primary school, early secondary, then it kind of can go a bit sort of as you're figuring out yourself, and then sort of come back again. Tell us a bit more about the main character in this book. So Zed, could these tell us a bit more about his job? I know you mentioned it a little bit in your sort of just a minute there, and he's not your he's not your typical hero. And I guess the initial thought of who the villain is going to be is not obviously then your typical villain either. So was that sort of it kind of challenges your perception of what a hero and a villain is, actually, and I think that's what's good about it. Was that a very sort of an intentional kind of thing to sort of like to challenge what those perceptions are of those sort of stereotype kind of figures? Was that an intentional thing to do that?
Yeah, I think when I was writing Zed as my main character, I really wanted a character who felt relatable and would feel like an almost like everyday kind of boy. He's a little bit clumsy. He likes to kind of keep to himself and stay inside and follow rules, which was very me when I was growing up. Wasn't one for going on massive adventures, but he really does want to be just like his dad, because he's heard these stories about demons for his whole life, about how they're monsters and how hunters must protect humans from them. And yeah, with Spark, our demon who falls to earth and meets Zed, I wanted someone who was quite dry humored, quite sarcastic, confident in a lot of ways, but also scared because he's in a place that he doesn't know and he just wants to be able to get back home. So it was quite fun being able to flip the hero and villain kind of perceptions.
And that kind of leads into the next bit, and I think someone wrote this in a review of your book, actually, which I thought was quite good. It's a very, very fun book, but as I said, I like a lot of the best stories. They have the sort of they work on different levels, in terms of what and I think that's always, and they work for children as well as adults, reading them on different levels, and they're the best stories. Someone wrote that kind of, which you just touched on, that kind of fear of the other, the fear of the unknown, what that thing is, and sort of told that we should be frightened of that, which I know is a common thing in sort of in children's books, but it kind of really works as an undertone in this, in your book, I think. Is that also another important message for you to get across, that kind of like fear of the fear of the unknown, and how we can all be made to fear. I mean, certain things obviously make sense to fear, like, you know, maybe walking on the edge of a roof is not a good idea. Fear that, but you know what I mean. There are certain fears we have, certainly with each other and people, that we don't necessarily know about. We're just sort of told that's wrong or fear that, and we do. Is that an important message for you, sort of throughout your books or in this book in particular? What would you say? What would you say to that?
I think it's a common thread in all of my books. In this one, it felt more like a theme to really explore. I really wanted to, whenever I go into schools and visit young readers, it always strikes me how kind and empathetic they are in approaching stories about people who are different from them in one way or another. And so, yeah, I always feel really inspired when I leave a school and have spoke to young readers. And I really wanted to put it into a book because I think we get told a lot about other people we might not know who, and we're told to fear them in some way, or we're told that the way they're different from us is wrong. So to be able to kind of explore the idea of that through the book and almost shatter that completely was something that I really wanted to try and, yeah, explore in the book.
No, that does really come across, and that's a brilliant thing. So Ben, to give us a taster, we hand over you for a little reading now, if that's all right. Just give us sort of a flavour of the book. So I'll go full screen with you. So this is Ben in reading from The Boy Who Fell from the Sky. Give us a little taster. So over to you, Ben, now.
Perfect. I'm going to read the very beginning, which is the prologue. It's just very short, so just to give you an idea. And so our story begins, not here on Earth, although we'll get there soon, but in a place just out of reach. Here, concealed beyond the sky and hiding within the very stars of the galaxy itself, is a boy. Away from Earth's harm, the boy is safe. But every so often, a shooting star escapes from the gilded cage it's kept in, slipping away from the herders who tried to tame it and dashing through the night, ripping open the sky. Through this tear, the world above and below become connected for a brief time, until the wound heals into a scar, closing the void once more. It happens every single day, all around the globe. Down on Earth, humans hear a thunderous sound as the shooting star escapes. It's a warning. Hunters far and wide assemble, ready to protect Earth from the monsters that will soon fall into our world. And as the star completes its journey, the hunters raise their weapons. Now, a shooting star makes a break for freedom, awakening chaos from its slumber. It moves at a frightening speed, whooshing through the sky as if it's been being chased, and soon there's no hope of catching it. The sparks from the star's tail seep into the folds of the night, cutting through the sky like a knife and tearing it apart. It lasts for just a moment, but a moment is enough. The sky begins to split, the hunters take aim, and the boy begins to fall.
Wow, look at that. That's a great bit to read, isn't it? That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's a fantastic book. We've got some questions for you, not necessarily related specifically to the book, but we're just putting like this. So Kingsway Primary Academy School in Widnes, how much of what you write has happened to you? I'm guessing they mean obviously not demons falling from the sky, or maybe that has happened to you. You know, I'm open to that. But I suppose, you know, I'll leave it open to your own interpretation. So how much of what you write has happened to you?
I think whenever I approach writing a book, it starts very personal. So I might want to explore a particular experience that's happened to me, or maybe one of my personality traits, or an interaction I've had with other people, or just a question that I want to ask myself and the world around me. So yeah, I think nothing directly that's happened to me is in this book. I haven't stumbled across a demon yet. There's still time. But yeah, it's always a good starting point to start personally and then work outwards from there. I
love that. That's an amazing bit of advice. I like the idea about, you know, exploring one of your own personality traits and sort of. But that's really fascinating. I was speaking to someone the other day actually. They said an author, I can't remember who it was, and they said that a lot of their characters are different aspects of them. You know, they just, as you said, that you explore and just sort of say, if I was like this and this was slightly more of my personality, then it was less. What would I be? You know.
Yeah,
that's always quite interesting.
I think that's all of my characters. I think I put just a little bit of different parts of me into different characters, and then I combine it with different personality traits from other friends that I know. So yeah, and it melds into one character.
That's fascinating. Okay, here we go. This another one. So St James C Primary School, Malvern. Where do you get your ideas from when writing? You've sort of kind of touched upon that already, but anything else you'd like to add to that question?
I always say when I go into schools that inspiration can be found absolutely anywhere. So for me, for this book, I was listening to a Billie Eilish song on Spotify. It came on randomly, and there was a lyric about Lucifer, and that's another word for a demon. I started thinking about demons and how that could be a villain. And then the most exciting answer I usually give to kids is I play a lot of Fortnite. And I decided that Fortnite was a great inspiration to use. The battle bus goes over the map and the players jump out and land on the map. And I really like the idea of that. So that's where the kind of inspiration for the shooting star and the demon landing down on Earth comes from. So.
That's brilliant, brilliant. Okay, last one, which is, again, sort of not specifically book related, but it was asked for of you. Manor Oaks Road School, Sheffield Scoring. What is your most memorable book from your childhood and why? I suppose that varies on what particular age you're going for, really. But I suppose are there sort of standout ones that kind of influenced you now that you definitely realise looking back, actually they were.
Yeah, I think 3 books stand out to me from of similar ages. I think the first one is the Lemony Snicket books, A Series of Unfortunate Events. That really inspired my style of writing. I like that chatty, informal narrator. It feels like a friend in a book. So that was one. Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman for a slightly older audience. That was the first time that I ever realized that I could be an author. It was possible. And then the third one, I was really excited about the Alex Rider series by Anthony Horowitz. I just really dove into all those books and I wanted to create something that was similar. So yeah, they were my 3 books. And
did you just quickly for those sort of series? Were there sort of specific ages that you read them at in terms of like that worked then I kind of how did that kind of work? Was it in a short period of time or was it over
it would be a span of a few years. I think A Series of Unfortunate Events, I was probably year 6 because my teacher told me off for writing in a chatty, informal narrator style. So I remember that. Mallory Blackman was a little bit older. I was probably year 7 or 8, and then Alex Rider them as well.
Yeah. Ben, fantastic to talk to you. So The Boy Who Fell from the Sky is out now by Benjamin Dean. Give it a read. It's an amazing, beautiful book. And also, like your other books, actually, I know some of them are for slightly older readers. It's full of joy, which is always an amazing thing to be full of, especially nowadays. Ben, we're going to have you again later on the show. So, but for now, thank you very much, Mr. Benjamin Dean. Fantastic. So listen, so Sarah, let's grab your book. Another beautiful book. Dreamstalkers, the night. Oh, there we go. Let's get it in. The Night Train. It's much clearer on your one. We're going to go for this. So I'm going to give it to you, Sarah, now to do your just a minute on Dreamstalkers, The Night Train. So when we go full screen, off we go. You ready for this? Here we go. So.
All right, Dreamstalkers, The Night Train is about a 12-year-old girl called Bee Grimspuddle and an owl called Pip, and they live in a wild, remote setting called Thunderheart Tor. And one day, all the dreams disappear, and nightmares come walking, and everybody has to leave Thunderheart, but Bee and her mum are not able to leave. And then the night train steams across the moors, and Bee is swept into an adventure in the world of the Dreamstalkers in the faraway magical city of Silverbane. That may not have been a minute.
We're done with that.
I think it probably wasn't long enough.
I was actually thinking, my God, she's going to have loads. She's going to keep going. So
I think I shortened it too much in the end.
I've shortened it, and you have to, but do this bit, and you'll have to read the book to find out what happens next.
Exactly.
That's a good thing. So Sarah, a bit like I asked Ben, I said I didn't ask Anna this question. You're sort of author, kind of here to there thing, or there to here. What was? How did you? Were you sort of interested in reading at school, or were you and then kind of went off it, or what was your sort of reading, writing sort of start, and how did that kind of progress?
So I was always interested in reading and writing as a kid, and was always writing something, always reading something. And when I got older, I didn't realize that you could really be an author. I didn't realize any of the authors of my favorite books were real people. And so I did lots of different jobs. I actually studied nursing at university, and then went back later and studied a master's in creative writing, and decided to really give the writing a go. And finished a book. So and then it kind of just went from there, and I'm writing more books.
I love the idea that the premise of this book, that whole idea that a day comes when all the dreams disappear, and nightmares sort of escape into the living world, which is a terrifying thought. That kind of idea and the character in it, who's I think the heroine in it's probably got one of the best names I think I've heard. If I got it right, B. Grimspuddle. What a great name! Yeah. That's a great name, isn't it? That's a great name. Oh, tell us a bit more about B. And you sort of mentioned about the sort of arc of the story, but where do we find ourselves at the beginning, and how do these nightmares? I don't think we could be giving anything away. How do these nightmares suddenly sort of get into the world in terms of that? So tell a bit more about B and how those nightmares, seep in.
So B sort of seemed to emerge really kind of entwined with the landscape where she lives. She's really close to nature. She loves being out on the moors with Pip, and she just really is like a very elemental sort of child, and really comfortable in all kinds of stormy weather. And dreams are really important to her and her family and the people of Thunderheart. And literally just one night the dreams disappear and her night was totally blank. And they start to see shadows just kind of appearing in the settlement, especially concentrated around, without giving too much away, around Bee's cottage, where she lives with her mum. And it's like as she goes through the adventure, she kind of learns a little bit about how there's a great balance to be upheld between dreams and nightmares. And there are two kind of mages who govern dreams and nightmares, and the magic that kind of controls them.
The friendship between Bee and her friendship with Pip, and then there's our uneasy, which is a wonderful thing, the owl, but also there's got a complicated friendship with Martha as well. And I find that kind of interesting, that sort of dynamic there. Is that based on anything or any characters in your life, or sort of maybe friendships you had when you were younger at all? Those sort of, I know not necessarily with an owl, or maybe you did, but those sort of friendships, was that sort of based on any sort of friendships you had when you were a kid? And what's that kind of dynamic in the book? Can you tell us a bit about that, and what you drew upon for that?
Yeah. It's not directly based on a friendship that I had as a kid, but I think I definitely drew on some experiences from childhood. And I think in the beginning of the book, Bee is quite isolated, and she's quite lonely actually, and really she's like kind of fiercely independent and likes to pretend that she isn't vulnerable, but she actually really craves friendship, and she's struggling a little bit with bullying at school. And Martha is a character who she grows closer to during the course of the book, and I think experiences that I probably drew on were maybe thinking that sometimes nobody understands you and you're the only one who's having certain problems, and actually Bee kind of learns to let people in, and to not kind of like isolate herself in a way.
Yeah. It comes across really well, and that dynamic really works really well in the book. Just quickly, we're going to quick reading for you a minute. Again, this is on your website, and I was really fascinated by it because it's never happened to me before. But you mentioned you have seen humpback whales from an oak boat in the northern seas of Iceland, and journey by train beyond the Arctic Circle to the far north of Swedish Lapland, which I've got to tell you is something I would love to do. I'm sure if you do those DNA tests, I've got some sort of like, Scandinavian kind of, because the cold, I like the cold. So not many people have done that. What was that like doing that? I mean, that must have been absolutely magical. So tell us a bit about that just quickly, because, it's an experience not many of us have had.
Yeah. I got really heavily into research for my books, especially for my Huntress trilogy. And I found it really, really helpful to get some really tangible kind of like gritty kind of research experience, and was lucky enough to have a couple of chances to just go off and do it. And it was amazing. And with the Arctic Circle train, I think that definitely influenced some of this book as well. And basically it was like, I think it was the 2nd of January a few years ago, and everyone else was just kind of like hunkering down just after New Year, and I set off and just like I flew to Sweden and then took a train from Stockholm for 18 hours beyond the Arctic Circle on my own. And I was just in a compartment in this huge train with strangers from all over the world, which is brilliant because, you know, talking to people who are traveling from all over the world. And I think if you're on your own, sometimes that opens you up a bit more to sharing experiences with other people. And it was like kind of the sort of bunk, you know, the seats in the train compartment that folded up into bunks. And literally the train was weaving through the forests of Sweden, and you could just feel yourself sliding a little bit in your bunk. And it was honestly, when I got there, it was minus 32 degrees, and it got colder while I was there. And I had my eyes were sealing closed with ice at times, and I could see crystals on my eyelashes. And like you would have snotsicles as well. So like, you know, your nose was obviously run in that situation. And then
can I ask you, Sarah,
very interesting.
Why hasn't that been
what happened?
That should be a book title. Surely someone's got to slap that one up. So this is a little reading from Dreamstalkers, The Night Train. I'll hand over to Sarah now. Give us a little taste there. Then we're going to go to Pari, and then we have all the authors on together because I'm aware of time for the school. So over to you, Sarah.
Thank you. So just quickly for context, this is quite early on in the book, and Bee's gone out into a storm to investigate some mysterious goings on. So a sound louder than the storm severed Bee's thoughts. It started with a repetitive clanking like a hammer knocking metal. It grew louder and slower. Bee gasped. She stuffed the scroll in the pouch back into her pockets and pressed herself against the outhouse wall. The hammering sound advanced towards her, and she reached to draw the door shut, peering out through a gap in the wood. The building trembled. The earth shuddered. A banshee wail split the air. Bee crouched with her hands covering her ears. What if this was another nightmare? An even more powerful one? It was headed straight for her. Squinting through the gap, Bee watched a long black shape chug, clatter, and steam its way up and over the ridge towards the cottage. The shape was mountainous and tall enough to block out the tor. Bee clutched the wood, half aware of her torn, splintered skin. It's a nightmare as long as a serpent, some kind of snake-like beast. It's come to consume us. Then Bee saw it, a small silhouetted figure cowering in the space between the outhouse and the cottage. It clapped its hands over its ears. Get away, Bee screamed, but her voice was eaten by the noise of the storm and whatever the giant creature was. Bee's heart drummed and black spots danced before her eyes. The front of the creature was round like a blank face. A funnel towered over its head, spewing sparks and smoke. Mechanical arms as big as tree trunks reached over its head, throwing down shining metal beams that thumped into the ground ahead of it. It hissed to a stop. The arms ceased moving. Steam washed across its body. Its flanks glistened. As Bee watched, the thing shrieked again, a sound so sharp that pain speared Bee's insides. She blinked. It's a whistle. More thoughts crisscrossed her mind, tumbling, scattering. This is a steam train. But how? There's no track. And then she saw. Those metal beams were the track. The great machine was throwing down its own rails as it went. A steam train, here on the moors, stopping right in front of their cottage.
That's great. That kind of sets that up amazingly. Thank you, Sarah. We just got a quick question for you. We're going to do one question today. This is quite an interesting one. St. Joseph the Works in Salford. If you had to live in one of your books, which book would you choose? I mean, that's a tricky one, isn't it? I should ask all the authors this. It's a really interesting one. But I mean, and I suppose, and why, I suppose, you know, so any thoughts on that?
That's a brilliant question. I've never had that before.
I know it's quite an amazing question. I might ask everyone that at the end, but any thoughts on that?
So I don't have the constitution to live on board a ship. I get really seasick. So I can't say the Huntress. So I actually would potentially say Once We Were Witches. And that's because it's mostly set in a funeral parlor in the countryside. And like there's a really lovely old cranky undertaker. And there's a basement where a dragon lives in a well, and the dragon has to be fed puddings every day. It's very demanding. So there's a lot of baking for a dragon that lives in a well.
I think
I would probably do that. Yeah.
I think they live there, and then you get the bits that dragon doesn't eat, providing he hasn't, you know, much more. Like you get.
You could have some as well. Yeah,
you get a bit of bacon. So I think I'm with you there. I think that's a perfect place to live. So listen, Sarah, thank you very much. I'm going to speak to you again in just a minute. We're going to speak to Pari now, and then we're going to have you all on just at the end for a few questions and a few quick fire questions at the end. But for now, the magnificent Sarah Driver. Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you very much. Bye bye. See you in a sec. So fantastic. Fantastic to get Sarah on as well. So please welcome to Mr Dilly Meets the wonderful Pari Thomson. Hello, Pari. How are you?
Hello, I'm really well. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And thanks very much for your patience. I know you've been patiently waiting backstage there and looking at all the other authors. I hope that was interesting for you to listen to their
Yeah,
story.
absolutely brilliant. It's always so inspiring to hear about other authors and how
it is really inspiring. So the paperback, am I right in thinking of look at that, they've got a green screen, it all goes completely weird. I know it's like they might, yeah, but you can see it in the background there. The paperback is just released. The hardback came out last year. Am I right in thinking that?
That's right. The hardback was out last June. The paperback came out last week. So it's
last week. Greenwild, The World Behind the Door. And I haven't got a picture of it, but you've got the sequel coming out in May. Am I right in thinking that?
That's right. The sequel's out in just 4 months' time. So
fantastic. And do we have a title for that sequel as well, I believe?
It's called Greenwild, The City Beyond the Sea.
Wow, the City Beyond the Sea. So that's coming out. So Pari, tell us a little bit, as some of the other authors, tell us a little bit about you're sort of here to their kind of story, and how bring us up to date with well, actually the second in this series now. So how did you sort of at school? What were you like? With reading, writing, and how did that sort of eventually turn into what you do now? So I'll hand over to you for that.
Yeah, so I was a massive bookworm as a child, and I was just constantly with my head buried in a book. I used to walk home from school reading and bumping into lampposts, and my poor parents were quite worried about me. And I was also always scribbling stories. I remember when I was about 5 or 6, I wrote a story that I sort of folded and put together with staples so that it would look like a book with pages that you could turn. And I very solemnly gave this to my parents, and they very kindly didn't laugh at me, but they encouraged me to keep writing. So I did. And eventually in 2020, I started writing Greenwild, and it kind of turned into a real full-length book. And I've just finished writing book 2, which I loved. It's great to get to do it for real.
How many drafts did you have to do of Greenwild? Did you have to do quite a few? Because I know some people they do loads, and other people it just kind of comes out quite quick. How did you find that for that first book?
Yeah, I wrote the first draft quite quickly. I actually wrote it pencil on paper, and then what actually took more time was typing it up and editing it and kind of making it polished and kind of making it all make sense and fit together as a plot.
When you do that, do you find suddenly that you sort of take things out or rearrange it, or how does that when you start looking at it again, from outside eyes, as it were, again, do you change it quite a lot in from that first draft?
You know what, the basic kind of shape of the story stayed the same, but I made it quite a bit shorter. There were kind of episodes that weren't crucial to the plot, that weren't kind of driving the story forward, and those had to come out.
Yeah. That's great. So listen, tell us about so your main character, Daisy Thistledown, in your book. Is that drawn? I know I've kind of asked a couple of the other authors this, but is that drawn on any elements of that character drawn from yourself or from maybe childhood friends, or is it just completely just a whole kind of invention? How did she come about? Because she's a great character. How did you come up with her?
Thanks. Yeah. So Daisy has spent a lot of her life traveling around the world because her mother is a journalist, so they're always moving around so that her mother can research her stories for the newspaper she writes for. So Daisy has this experience of a childhood where she's always moving from place to place. She's never staying in one place for very long. And some of this did come from my own childhood experience. Because of my dad's job, we moved every 2 or 3 years. So I really knew and kind of could channel that feeling of having to move schools all the time, having to kind of fit in and start again and again and again in different places. So that's definitely there as well. Daisy, my main character, is also, like me, half Iranian, half English. So I drew on that part of my kind of upbringing and identity. What I would say is that Daisy is much braver than me. So Daisy is much kind of, she doesn't think that she's very brave at first, but on through the course of the story, she discovers that she's a lot braver than she thinks. So that was fun to write.
That's an interesting thing you say that. I speaking to someone the other day, and they said, well, I think I said to Ben or one of the other authors earlier about those characters being aspects of yourself. And I think there's someone I spoke to the other day said they take an aspect of themselves that maybe, like you just said about maybe bravery or courage, and they kind of think, actually, if I was more brave, if I was more courageous, what could that?
This is what I would do.
Yeah, that's what I do. So it's kind of good to your sort of there's aspects of yourself you're kind of exploring within it as well, which is quite an amazing thing to get out of yourself in a sense. I would imagine growing up, you didn't necessarily have, or maybe you did, a talking cat called Napoleon. Was that the case?
Sadly, I did not have a talking cat called Napoleon. I did I did have a cat called Tiger when I was little, who I spent hours with over the summer holidays, just playing outside. And I love the idea of having a kind of quite snooty and superior cat who can go on an adventure with you.
But they have a lovely, so just tell us about, because it's a lovely relationship they have in the book. Tell us more about that relationship between Daisy and Napoleon, and how that kind of develops without giving too much away in the book.
Yeah, so Daisy kind of finds Napoleon, or rather Napoleon finds her, and he helps her to find the doorway into the Greenwild, this kind of magical world where plant magic is real. And what I love about Napoleon is that, like many cats, so if you have a cat, or maybe your neighbor has a cat, and you kind of know how they behave, you can know that sometimes they're very superior. They think that they're better than you, and they're probably right. And Napoleon is one of those cats. So I really enjoyed writing that relationship between Daisy and Napoleon, because, you know, Daisy kind of respects that, you know, Napoleon knows what he's doing, and she should probably listen to him.
That's it comes across in the book. We're going to hand over to you now, Pari, for a little taster of Greenwild, The World Behind the Door. As I said, hardback was out last year. Paperback is out now, and the sequel is out in a few months' time. But over to Pari, he's going to give us a little taster, and then we are going to bring everyone back for our finale today. So I'll hand over to you now, Pari.
Okay, so I'm going to read the section where Daisy first steps through the door into the Greenwild, and she's being chased in this scene by a man called Mr. Craven, who has something to do with her mother's disappearance. Now Craven is after Daisy too. She knows that she needs to escape. Okay, Daisy could hear Craven at the entrance to the glass house. The door seemed to be jammed, and he was arguing with the man beside him. Daisy glanced round and pushed after Napoleon. Napoleon is the cat. Even as she ducked through the curtain of vines, she heard glass shattering as Craven broke his way into the palm house. "Watch the exits," he said. His voice was harsh, and she saw him draw close to her hiding place. She must be in here somewhere. Daisy's breath felt stapled to the back of her throat. Her fear was so strong she was surprised Craven couldn't smell it like a bloodhound. "Here, girl," said Craven. "Come out now. We won't hurt you." Yeah, right, thought Daisy. Her back was pressed against a large tree, and she crouched down to make herself smaller. And then she saw it, a small door in the heart of the leaves. It was low and gleamed with silver light around its edges. The handle of the door was cool and silver, and it turned soundlessly like something in a black and white film. Napoleon leapt across the threshold just as Craven drew closer once again. Daisy hesitated, then followed, shutting the door silently behind her. Immediately, all noises stopped. Ahead of them was a forest of towering oak trees surrounded by thorny roses. It was dim in the forest, and round lanterns were strung between the trees, scattering gold sequins of light across a narrow and winding path. Napoleon was poised just ahead, looking back as if to say, "Hurry up then." The roses were the size of dinner plates, and plumed birds, electric blue and yellow and rainbow-coloured, glided from branch to branch. One thing was certain. They were no longer in Kew Gardens, or not in any part of it that Daisy knew. And if you want to find out what happens next, you'll have to keep reading.
So, Pari, we've got loads of questions. We're going to just give you one very quick question. If you can answer quite quickly, then we bring everyone else on. So this is quite a difficult question to answer quickly, but we'll give it a best shot. So in Clear Pass City Primary School, Liverpool, what impact do you hope your novels have on their audiences?
Oh, this is such a great question.
Yeah, it's a
Okay,
great question.
so my books are inspired by the idea that nature all around us is really a little bit magic. So if you think of the way that sunflowers turn to follow the sun across the sky, or a giant tree can grow from a tiny acorn, you have so many amazing plants that really exist in nature, from carnivorous fly traps to enormous lily pads that are big enough for you to lie down and take a nap on. So I've created a world where nature really is magic, where there are trees that grow chocolate from their branches, there are plants that you eat and that shrink you until you're teeny tiny like this, and you could be small enough to fly on the back of a bird. All sorts of things are possible. So I want people to take away from my book the idea that nature and the natural world around us is magic, and it is worth us protecting and looking after, and just kind of paying attention to and enjoying, because it is incredible.
That is a wonderful, wonderful answer. And pay attention are two of the best words I think everyone can do about everything with it, relationships and the world around us and everything else. So thank you very much for that lovely answer. We're going to keep you with us. Let's welcome back Anna Rainbow. Hello, Anna. Nice to have you back.
Nice to be back.
There we go. And Sarah Driver, all on together. But we have a couple of questions. So we're going to give you one question that you can all answer separately. And we'll start with you, Pari, for this. And then we've got a kind of a quick fire round for you all as well. So this is the question. Here we go. Penquinch County Middle School in Stafford. If you could be a character in another famous book, who would you be and why? So Pari, let's hand that to you first of all. That's quite tricky.
Oh wow, what a great question.
Yeah.
I can think. I'm going to say two very quickly. One is Lucy in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I absolutely love this book. Lucy is the character who steps through an ordinary looking wardrobe and finds herself in the magical land of Narnia, a land where it's always winter but never Christmas, and a white queen is in control. And I absolutely love this adventure, and I would love to be Lucy and go on that. The second one is Lyra in Northern Lights, because she also goes on an amazing adventure to the Arctic. There are giant talking bears. It's a fantastic story, and I would just love to be part of that. So those are
no one's ever done this. My thought there is that what if you did a book where Lucy met Lyra? That'd be interesting. I know.
That would be interesting.
Okay, Anna, what about yourself? Any particular character in another famous book? Who would you be and why?
Oh, I'm going to go really obvious and really big and say Hermione from Harry Potter, because I just love her. She's brilliant. She's so clever and she's so intuitive, and
she's got an amazing wand. Let's face it, we could do one of those, which is quite handy.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Sarah, what about yourself? Any particular character in another famous book you could be or would be?
It's quite a tough question. There's so many. I think I'd be Morrigan Crow from the Nevermore books, and more recently, I'd love to join the Wondrous Society. And Morrigan's always really, really true to herself and makes an amazing group of friends.
So Morrigan Crow. And Ben, what about yours? What about yourself? Any particular character?
Tough question. Maybe Percy Jackson. Fight all the gods and all that business.
That sounds good to me. Okay, so and this is another quick question for you. Actually, this is a good one. We're going to do this quite quickly. But difficult one again. Howard Junior School, King's Lynn. Do you have a go-to book or books when you're feeling down? So I thought it was an amazing question. I don't know if I've ever really been asked that question. So Pari, do you have a sort of a book that maybe it might not be obviously a child book, but it might be a childhood book. It might be some other book or whatever. Do you have a particular book that you really think, actually, that if I get a little sneak into that or jump into that for a bit, I can sort of lift my spirits? Is there any books for you like that, Pari?
That's such a great question. I love this. And I'm going to say Journey to the River Sea by Eva Ibbotson, which is a book about a girl called Maya who goes on an adventure in the Amazon rainforest. And there's something about this book and Eva Ibbotson's writing that every time I read it, it just makes me feel happy. I absolutely love it. Okay,
Journey to the River Sea. Anna, what about yourself? Any particular book?
I would say an author, like all of her books. Kieran Millward Hargrave. I just love all of the books, and they always make me feel kind of very connected to humanity and to nature. And I'd recommend every single thing she's written.
That's good. Kieran Millward Hargrave. Sarah, what about yourself?
When I was a kid, I've still got this book from when I was really, really young called The Necklace of Raindrops by Joan Aiken. And everybody in the school, in my class, wanted to get their hands on this book. And it was always being borrowed from the library. And it's just short stories based on folk tales. And the illustrations are absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's just kind of childhood comfort book.
Yeah. Have you still got a copy? You've still got it?
Yeah.
You still use it. And what about yourself, Ben?
I'm notorious for not rereading books too often. I'm one of those people that I read one and then I love it and then I never go back to it. A little bit older maybe, but The Perks of Being a Wallflower when I'm feeling a little bit down. That's the book I've reread the most. So I feel nice and comfortable when I read that book.
Can we reading that? I'm actually revisiting Lord of the Rings at the moment, which is quite a task.
Wow.
It's quite something. Okay, these are quick fire questions. They won't go on the screen. And we just go Pari, Anna, Sarah, and Ben, and just the first thing that popped into your head, along as it's within the context of the show that we're doing today. So Pari, here we go. This is the first question. What is your favorite word?
Cascade.
Anna? God, terrified. Marzipan. Sarah?
Yeah, I don't know why it just popped in.
Squalid.
Squalid. Ben?
Ethereal.
Oh, that's good. Okay, next one. Pari, what is your least favorite word?
Dank.
Dank. Yeah, that's quite horrible. Anna?
Ooze.
Ooze. Okay. Sarah?
I love all words. I don't know. Grey seems boring. I don't know.
Grey. And Ben?
Sorry.
Moist.
Moist. That's all together now. That's not good. Okay. Pari, what do you love doing?
Walking outside where there are trees.
Fantastic. Anna?
Singing.
Singing. Sarah?
Walking by the sea.
Walking by the sea. Wonderful. And Ben?
Singing in the shower.
Singing in the shower. Fantastic. Okay. So a bit strong word this, but what do you hate doing? So what do you dislike? What do you hate doing, Pari?
Oh, I hate being stuck inside on a beautiful day.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Anna?
Maths. Sorry, maths teachers.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Stuck inside on a beautiful day doing maths. It was worse. Sarah?
Getting up very early.
Oh, okay. And Ben?
Answering emails.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's the bane of modern world. Okay, we've got a couple more for you. So, Pari, what sound or noise do you love?
I love listening to Louis Armstrong.
Good answer. There we go. Anna, what sound or noise do you love?
I love clocks ticking.
Clocks ticking. Well, grandfather clocks, and just like the sound. Yeah. Sarah, what sound or noise do you love?
My cat's purring.
Cat's purring. And Ben, what about yourself?
Either a storm at night or waves.
Oh, waves. Yeah. Okay. So the opposite of that. What sound or noise do you dislike or hate? There's quite a few of these, but Pari.
I'm gonna go with a classic: fingernails down a blackboard. Even saying it just gives me the shudders. Yeah.
It does. Okay, Anna, what about yourself? Sound or noise do you hate?
Similar to Pari's, but cellophane, when it's like.
Oh, yeah. You can actually feel it. You're bored. What's it do? It does your drawing, doesn't it? Okay, Sarah, what sound or noise do you hate?
This is going to sound really mean, but like the sound of other people chewing food. Well, so the sound of other people breathing. That's it's so unreasonable. Yeah.
Chewing. I get that. And Ben, what about you?
I know they're necessary, but fire alarms when it's gone off for no reason, you're trying to stop it and it doesn't stop. That.
Yeah, I can get that. Okay, we got two more questions. Okay, so opposites again. So, Pari, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt? Well, I presume one you haven't done already. So, other than your own, would you like to attempt?
Oh, good question. I would love to be a botanist.
A botanist? Well, that's brilliant. Okay, Anna, what about yourself? Other profession you'd like to attempt?
Oh, I have no imagination. I can only think of my jobs. Maybe be a teacher.
Teacher? Okay, great. And Sarah?
I've never quite got over wanting to be a vet. So
A vet.
maybe that.
Fantastic. And Ben, do you have any particular one you'd like to attempt if you weren't doing what you're doing?
Gymnast.
Gymnast. I think we should combine all these together. The sort of the botanist, gymnast, teaching vet. There's another idea. Just putting them out there. Okay, and last one. What profession would you definitely not like to do, so Pari?
I would be a terrible kind of cave explorer. I get claustrophobic, and being stuck underground would be terrible.
Yeah, I've had some experience of that, so yeah, I agree with that. Anna, what about yourself?
Oh, anything to do with numbers. So an accountant, a maths teacher, even though I just said teacher, but not a maths teacher.
Not a maths teacher, yeah, absolutely. Sarah, profession would you not like to do, just out of anything?
Maybe like a runner, anything to do with like athleticism.
Absolutely. But you're taking a lot of boxes in me here. I'm just looking at myself thinking, my gosh, who am I? So here we go. Ben, what about you?
An astronaut or a deep sea explorer. I think we should mind our business and leave those things alone.
I think that's right. There's other things to do, isn't there? Let's face it, like cave diving, for example, Pari. So we could do that instead. Not with you there. So listen, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a joy to have you on. All these wonderful books, boom, Dreamstalkers and The Boy Who Fell from the Sky, Diamond Jack, Greenwild, of course, they didn't say the name that, are all out now for you to enjoy. It leaves me to say thank you much to Pari Thomson, Anna Rainbow, Sarah Driver, Benjamin Dean. Let's all just, give each other a big round of applause as well. Fantastic. Lovely to have you all on. Best of luck with your books, and I look forward to speaking to you all again. So goodbye, Ben. Goodbye, Sarah. Goodbye, Pari. And goodbye, Anna. Thank you very much. Well, that's kind of the end of the show. But thank you for joining me for this January, kicking off the new year, Mr Dilly Meets. It's goodbye from me, my friends. And of course, it's goodbye from me. Goodbye, my friends. Goodbye.